Hello and welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about musculoskeletal system. So musculoskeletal system is an organ system which is made up of body's bones, muscles, cartilage, tendon, ligament, and other connective tissue. The muscles have been divided into three portions: skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. I have already taken this with examples and differences in my previous video. I'll share the link in my description box. So the skeletal muscle has sarcomere. The smallest functional unit of the contractile apparatus in the skeletal muscle is sarcomere, which is composed of two kinds of proteins, myosin and actin. Several long myosin molecules wrap around each other to form one thick filament. Globular head, which is myosin head, protrude along both ends of the thick filament. An actin polymer creates a thin filament, and attached to the actin are proteins troponin and tropomyosin, which participate in the mechanism of contraction. The myosin and actin filaments overlap and slide past each other when muscles contract and relax. This is a sarcoplasmic reticulum showing thin and thick filaments. The Z line separates one sarcomere from the next and is also where actin filaments attach. The actin area, including the Z line, is known as I band. The myosin only area is H zone. An area where myosin is present as well as where it overlaps is the A band. The A band includes H zone, and the midline of the myosin fiber is the M line. Myosin and actin filaments are laid side by side to form the cylindrical sarcomere, and sarcomeres are positioned end to end to form a myofibril. Each myofibril is surrounded by sarcoplasmic reticulum, which is specialized endoplasmic reticulum of the myocytes, muscle cells. The lumen of the sarcoplasmic reticulum is filled with calcium ions. Lodged between the myofibrils are the mitochondria, which create the ATP required for muscular contraction, and each myocyte is multinucleated. Sarcolemma, a modified cellular plasma membrane which wraps several myofibrils together to form the myocyte. Motor neurons attach to a myocyte at a motor end and plate, forming a neuromuscular junction. The motor end plate is a region of highly excitable muscle where the neuromuscular junction is a synapse between the motor neuron and the motor end plate. This is presynaptic neuron and the postsynaptic neuron, and the synaptic vesicle from where neurotransmitters are released at the synapse. The action potential of the neuron releases acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. The acetylcholine binds membrane-bound receptors on the motor end plate, which activates ion channels and creates action potential that propagates along the sarcolemma. T-tubules facilitate the uniform contraction of the muscle by allowing the action potential to spread through the myocyte more quickly. The action potential is transferred to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, causing voltage-gated channels on the sarcoplasmic reticulum to open. As a result, the sarcoplasmic reticulum becomes more permeable to calcium, which is released around the sarcomere. The presence of calcium allows the sarcomere's myosin and actin fibers to slide across each other, causing the contraction of the muscle fiber. When a muscle contracts, the actin is pulled along myosin towards the center of the sarcomere until the actin and myosin filaments are completely overlapped. For a muscle cell to contract, the sarcomere must shorten, and thick and thin filaments, the components of sarcomere, do not shorten, but a sarcomere is the distance between consecutive Z line. When a muscle contracts, the distance between the Z disc is reduced. The H zone, the central region of the A zone, contains only thick filaments and is shortened during contraction. The H zone becomes smaller and smaller due to the increasing overlap of actin and myosin filaments, and the muscle shortens. Thus, the muscle is fully contracted, the H zone is no longer visible. The thin filaments here are pulled by the thick filaments towards the center of the sarcomere until the Z disc approaches thick filament. The I band contains only thin filament and also shortens. The A band does not shorten, it remains the same length. But A band of different sarcomeres move closer together during contraction. Now, sliding filament theory of muscle contraction. Thick and thin filaments, the components of sarcomere, do not shorten. Instead, they slide by one another, causing the sarcomere to shorten. The mechanism of contraction is the binding of myosin to actin, forming cross bridges that generate filament movement. A motor unit consists of a single alpha motor neuron and all of the corresponding muscle fibers. When a motor unit is activated, all of its fibers contract, and groups of motor units often work together to coordinate the contraction of a single muscle. All of the motor units that serve a single muscle are considered as motor unit pool. The smaller motor unit, the more precise the action of the muscle. Muscles requiring more refined motion are innervated by motor units that synapse with fewer muscle fibers. Motor unit recruitment. It is a measure of how many motor neurons are activated in a particular muscle. The higher the recruitment, the stronger the muscle contraction will be. And the motor units are generally recruited in order of smallest to largest, from fewest fibers to most fibers as contraction increases, and this is known as Henman's size principle. Muscle fibers can be categorized. They differ in their contractile velocity, that is speed of contraction, maximum force production, and resistance to fatigue. We have red fibers because they carry myoglobin, and white fibers because they have less myoglobin. These are called type 1 fibers and these are called type 2 fibers. Further, they are also classified as type 2A and type 2B. Red fibers are called slow twitch fibers, whereas white fibers are called fast twitch fibers. Red fibers have low contractile velocity, whereas type 2A fibers have a fast contractile velocity and are resistant to fatigue. Red fibers produce a large amount of force, and being slow to fatigue can be employed for long periods of time. Type 2B fibers have a low myoglobin content, contract rapidly, and are able to generate great force. The large number of mitochondria and high myoglobin content of slow twitch fibers provide them with the ATP and oxygen needed to operate for long periods without fatigue. The white fibers, they fatigue quickly because of being fast twitch fibers. So what is fatigue? Fatigue is a consequence of suffering oxygen debt, a disparity between how much oxygen the muscles require to produce sufficient energy in the form of ATP and how much oxygen is being provided through breathing. Bone types. There are 4 types of bone: long, short, flat, and irregular. Long bones are cylindrical in length greater than width, example femur. Short bones are equal in length and width, for example wrist and ankle bone. Flat bones are thin and curved like ribs, whereas irregular bones are bones that have a structure that does not fit into any other category. Joint structure. A joint is an area where 2 bones make contact with each other. Fibrous joints are those where the predominant connective tissue is collagen. They are usually immovable and have no joint cavity. Immovable joints in the cranium. Synovial joints are characterized by the presence of a joint cavity that is filled with synovial fluid. The cavity is surrounded by hyaline cartilage and allow the joint to be mobile. We have immovable joints, slightly movable, and freely movable. Now we have endoskeleton versus exoskeleton. The endoskeleton is hard, mineralized skeletal structure that is located within the soft tissue of the organism. The purpose is to protect internal organs, allow for locomotion, and provide support. An exoskeleton is a skeletal structure that lies outside the soft tissue of organisms. It provides a shell which can be used to protect and support the organism. Bone structure. Osteoblasts are a type of cell that is derived from stem cells and are found in cortical bone tissue. They aid in the creation of bone tissue. Osteocytes are involved in the reabsorption of bone tissue and make up 95% of the total bone cells. Osteoclasts degrade bone tissue ready for bone remodeling or the release of calcium into the bloodstream. Calcium phosphate is the major constituent of mammalian bones along with type 1 collagen. Now let's see what is a cartilage. It is a flexible connective tissue which prevents damage to bones and joints. This group of tissue is made up of chondrocytes, which are the cells of the cartilage. These cells are used to create collagen extracellular matrix. Perichondrium. It is a two-layered membrane and an attachment point for cartilage to join to other structures. Hyaline cartilage. It is the most common cartilage characterized by its simple structure and the high proportion of collagen. This type of cartilage is used as a temporary skeleton during embryo development. Fibrocartilage, large number of collagen fibers. They are usually found in dense ligaments and tendons. Elastic cartilage. It is known for its elastic network alongside the collagen fibers. In ligaments and tendons, they are predominantly made up of collagen 1 and proteoglycan. Tendons attach muscle to bone, whereas ligaments attach bone to bone. And finally, we have endocrine control. So endocrine system controls the concentration of calcium in the blood. When blood calcium levels are low, the parathyroid hormone releases PTH hormone, which causes the kidney to begin to reabsorb calcium as well as release vitamin D3. This vitamin D3 then stimulates further calcium reabsorption in the gut, and parathyroid hormone also stimulates osteoclasts to trigger the breakdown of the bone so that calcium is released into the bloodstream. When blood calcium levels are high, parathyroid secretion is lowered, halting the actions described above. Calcitonin hormone is released in response to increased calcium, which causes osteoblasts to deposit excess serum calcium into the bones in a process called calcification, thus aiding in return to a steady concentration of calcium so that homeostasis is maintained. That's all for the video. Thanks for watching.